Yesterday we have seen what is the significance or importance of API management over and above an existing API. There we have understood what is an API and its operations, what is product, what is group, how policies really make it impactful in context of API configuration. And then yes, we have seen how API gateway, publish portal, developer portals can be used. And very important, we have created a API app. Yes, it takes lots of time. It did really take a lot of time actually for creating an API app. The API management app. So this is an API management service, not app, sorry. It's an API management service. Now into this API management service, we are actually supposed to add API. So go there, we'll get a designer tool, kind of designer. Here we are supposed to add our APIs. We would already have a template. Let us use for API. We already have an API app created. So I'll use that here. Browse. This is the API app I already created yesterday. Give some name. Contact. So that becomes the management URL. API suffix. So we have, what is very important is, before actually you perform this step, you should have taken care of the CORS and the API definition in your API app. In the handout, my API app name is DSS contacts. So that I've already done that yesterday, so no problem now. But let us, okay, let's click on create contact. Let's call it as contacts, plural. So into API management service, I have added a new API called as contact list. Earlier there is already one which is created by default, Echo API. So there are two APIs now. So these are the operations which we had in our API app. So very clearly understand this. Right now the situation is we are having DSS demo management, which is managing DSS API app demo. DSS API app demo. This is what API management service, and API management service is managing actually two. One more is there, Echo API, which is a normal, I think, normal API only. It's not an API app. Echo API. As a sample, they have provided one. So now I am interested in contacts list, get contact. So here, these are all important. We are going to submit a request using get contacts. There are two policies right now, set backend service and base. Base is of course the default policies. and from here the request goes to actually DSS API app demo. The response comes back, outbound processing will happen, and the response comes back to front end. So it is like a cycle here. Front end to inbound processing, request goes to back end will process it, outbound processing, and that comes back to the front end. So 1, 2, 3, this is all provided. These 3 boxes, let us say actually these 2 boxes. Instead of 3, we can say these 2 boxes are actually the major contribution by the API management service. Now you can do a testing also. Here only you can do test. Click on send. See, we got the response. This is the request header, request line. These are all request headers which are submitted, and this is the message body. If you have parameters to be added, those can be provided here. For example, get contacts by ID will have a parameter. But if you want to pass some additional parameter, that you can do it through the query string over here. Provided, of course, your code in the API app is retrieving this parameter and making use of it. As of now, I don't have anything. Otherwise, we are supposed to provide that data. So ID, I give value 1. Of course, this I should delete it. And we get the response. Now these things can be achieved through publisher portal also. What I have done here, I can do that using publisher portal. This is the publishing portal. So here also we can go to APIs. We can add the APIs. We've already got 2 now. We can add the API, web API name, web service URL, the suffix contacts which I gave, and products. Right now we are not worried about products. So we have completed all this. And through portal, if you are doing it, the same steps can be performed there also. Any questions so far? So let us now get into how do we protect API. Now first thing, we'll have to create a product. So I go back to the portal, and here I'm going to add a product. We have starter, unlimited. 2 products are already there, in which access control is given to administrator, developers, and guest. I'm adding a new product. I'll call it as free trial. Give description. Subscriber will be able to run 10 calls per minute up to 200 calls a week, after which access is denied. Some kind of description we should give. If you want it to be published immediately, you can do that, or if you want, you can publish it later also. Now if somebody wants to access this product, do they need subscription or not? We have to put a check mark there. Otherwise it will be given to anonymous user also. Anybody can access it. So we will say request subscription. Requires approval. Now if suppose I put a check mark, the approval, the administrators are going to get a approval request, and only after they approve it will be accessible to the developers. So I don't want approval, I want auto approval. Subscription count limit. I'm not very sure about it. Let us keep it like that only. So I have created a product. Let us add API to it. Into this product, you can choose to add multiple APIs all or one API. It's your choice. I'm adding both the APIs into this product. Click on create. So a new product is created by name free trial, where administrators are given access control. So go to starter. Look at the APIs. Echo API. Maybe to that also you can add one more API, which is our API contacts. Settings. Subscription will be able to run 5 calls per minute up to maximum of 100 calls a week. That is starter. We have given a free trial. Settings, I gave up to 10 calls a minute and up to 200 calls per week. Slightly different. Now we have to create is policies. This is most important. Under free trial, see under starter I'll show you first. There are policies. This is the policy. Rate limit, calls, renewal period. So this inbound request. Inbound request is getting validated because of these tags. Right now there is no restriction on outbound and there is no restriction on the backend. So inbound request to backend and outbound. That's how it is. So I discard it. I want to do something similar for free trial. Policies. And here I try to add the policies. Limit call rate per subscription. Sorry. You have to just click on it. Limit call rate per subscription. And that's added here. So calls, we wanted 10 calls for every, what's the rule? 60 seconds. We don't want to put any restriction on a particular API or its operation. We want all of them to be restricted. So remove this. Otherwise we have to give the API name and so on. And also we would like to add quota. Quota will be in here only. Quota. Set usage quota per subscription. So put the cursor. Single click is enough. So same, I don't want quota. Now quota I want in terms of kilobytes. How many bytes of data transfer we would like to allow between the client and the API management service. How much of data transfer is allowed? That we can control here. 200 calls per week I would like to give. Week is 60,000, I mean 6 lakhs 4,800 seconds. Those many seconds is a week. So what are we doing here? We are having two rules added, two policies added, 10 calls in every 10 seconds. Maximum 10 calls we can make in a 10 seconds period, or actually we can put it as a minute, 60 seconds period. So in 1 minute 10 calls can be made in free trial, and 200 calls in a week is the quota maximum. So this is how I created a policy. Now save it. Bandwidth attribute is invalid. Okay, I did not give kilobytes. Let's not even need this. I mean, that's optional. Otherwise you have to give how many kilobytes of data you can transfer. Now these things I can as well do using the portal here. So here also you can add a product. I'm trying to do using new portal, but the same things can be done here also. See, free trial, you can add a product title, description, required subscription, but all this. Two, you can add to the policies can be added. So what we were earlier trying to do using management portal, we are trying to do using publishing portal. Same thing we are now trying to achieve using the main portal itself. Here also the same thing can be added. Select the product and add. Remember, we are not adding quota and rate limit for a given API or operation. We should add it for a subscription. Now suppose I choose a particular API, let us say contacts list. This will be different. And even if I add policy for contacts list, you'll see that here the options are disabled. Call rate limit per subscription is disabled. Not applicable. So when the option here is disabled, it basically means that it is not applicable in that context. Allow cross domain disabled. So that we should do it only at the API level. Then automatically it becomes available. It will refresh. So quota can be, settings can be overwritten. So here I have done something at the free trial level, that is product level. If I choose an API and if I write for an API, by giving new settings here, we will have new settings obviously. But if you want to carry forward the parent settings, you simply write base. It's auto generated, you just don't remove that. So you can use base for settings from the parent configuration. And you can see effective policy for selected scope. This is the effective. Right now there is nothing child. So it is effective policy. So a lot of these policy statements are there which you will have to learn on need basis. You can restrict the limit call per key basis also. Right now we have given restriction on subscription, and then we have key actually. For the subscription there is multiple keys can be generated. But developer will have a key. So we can have based on the key also some restrictions. Now to test all these things, we can now move to developer portal. So go back to overview, and here we will have developer portal. But before that, I need to add some user also. So go to users. We have got administrators and developers. I'll do one thing. Okay. Let's go to developer portal and from there try to do something. So developers, you and me, are supposed to actually subscribe. So for that, we'll have to first log in. I sign out. I have by default logged in as administrator. I'm signing out. I'll now log in with a different identity. See the URL of the development portal, the management api.portal.azure-api.net. I sign in. I don't have an account, let us say. I don't have this account. I gave valid username and password, but it is not accepting because this user is not existing in the API management. So I sign up now first. I'm signing up into development portal. And now I need to provide a verification email. Please confirm you're joining the program. Click on this and we are in. So now I'm a developer here. I've logged in as a developer into this management portal. So the owner of the API management is going to do promotion of the API, this URL. And we people, the developers, log in. You, me, anybody in the world can log in, create their login. And now I will go to APIs, contact list, try. You see what will happen. You are not subscribed to this API. So we are not able to access it because it's not freely accessible to everybody. The product was created. So we are now supposed to go to products either from here or from here and free trial. Why it is not listing? Oh, the product is not listed yet here because I haven't published it. So I go back here, come back to products, free trial. and I should publish it. Oh, it's already published. Developers is not added. Let us add developers. Now if I go back to the portal and refresh, we should have here free trial. We should get all of them. So click on free trial. This product contains 2 APIs. Subscribe it. Because it is auto subscription, immediately subscription will be approved. Otherwise a mail would go to the administrator and administrator will have to approve it. So there are 2 keys created and these are the keys which we are supposed to use for calling the API. Now go to APIs, contact list. Now click on try it. Let's say get instead of delete. Try it. We got the basic request format. Send the request. We got the response. Twice, thrice, 4, 5, 6. Finish. 10 times is over. We should now get the error. Rate limit exceeded. Because I have subscribed to a product free trial and free trial has that restriction that in a second we can have only 10 requests. That is a policy implementation. So these kind of benefits we get because of the API management. Similarly, we can add now caching feature. So same. We can go to API. See, the mail has come. Your subscription for the free trial. Thank you for subscribing. Blah, blah, blah. Contacts list. A particular method, let's say get method. I can add a policy. See, earlier, remember I added a policy for product. Now I'm adding a policy for a particular method. You can code view, inbound. We want caching. Caching policy. So get from cache. API contacts list, get method, inbound processing, code editor, include the two columns. Okay, we have to get as well as we have to store. But remember, store is supposed to be in outbound. At the time of responding, I'll store it into the cache, and before I forward, I'll take it from the cache. So store to cache. Outbound should be stored to cache. Inbound must be cache lookup. Now these things will have to make changes. Now here it is. So we give cache lookup, vary by developers group, false, vary by developer, false. That means it should be shared between developers. Must revalidate, downstream caching type. On the client machine, should it be saved or not? That we can control. Accept, these two headers should be there as it is. We don't change them. So I'll copy this section as it is and I'll paste it here. Other headers we don't need. Otherwise, based on those headers also you can do caching, request headers. Let's say 60. Yeah, 60 will be too short, right? Let's say 120, 2 minutes. Now save this. It will save if only everything is right. Now we can do testing. Again, we can go back to developer portal for it. Invoke get. It should work now. See 12301, right? 12301. So now what I'll do is I'll delete 3. Deleted successfully. Now I go back to get. Within that 120 seconds, I'm again saying try. And you'll notice that it has got me all of them again, including 3. But actually 3 is not there. The backend has actually deleted 3, but we are getting 3 because the response is coming from the cache. The response is not coming from the main site. Main API, web API. After 2 minutes, if I try, yes, you'll see that it's getting me the latest. So what I'm actually trying to show you is management API is even able to enable caching, and we do that for those queries which generally keep fetching us the same result. The data doesn't change, or we are trying to use read only data. Most of the time settings kind of things, we try to read only. So in those cases we will use caching. It's also one of the feature. So we have to add a policy. So I have added through management Azure portal. Publishing portal also has the same feature. So you can now, it is expired. Go back, developer portal, publishing portal. So this is policies. Select the product. Under that product, the operation get, and you see we already got the caching. I've created this actually using the Azure portal. but we are able to get this in the publishing portal. What do you call it? Publisher portal. So this is a new topic now, which is a new addition to the features. Azure features, basically about Azure functions. So what is an Azure function? Now we have done web jobs. This is very similar to web jobs, we can say, but little more powerful, little more flexible also. So Azure function is a serverless compute resource. That is most important here. It's a serverless compute service that enables you to run code on demand without having to explicitly provision or manage infrastructure. Azure functions can run a script or a piece of code in response to a variety of events. Something like web jobs also we have seen there are events which will occur on storage account queues or storage account blobs, and then they fire and some code can execute. Something similar here also. But there are more events here. Functions can make development even more productive, and you may use for development, and good thing is you can use it in any language. You can write code in C Sharp, F Sharp, Node.js, Python, PHP, anywhere you can write a function, Azure functions. And beautiful thing is pay only for the time your code runs and trust Azure to scale as needed. This is a beautiful advantage. Only when your function runs, only for that much time only you're paying. You're not paying otherwise per it. Of course, there is an option where your uh, Azure function subscription can be part of the app service plan. So if you are already having a app service, something like a web app, and it has associated service plan, Azure function we can execute in that plan itself. But if the functions are rarely going to execute once in a while, why should I create the plan and keep continuous payment for it? I mean, we have to continuously pay till the plan is active. But with functions, we pay only when it executes. So we have two options of payment options here. One is for the on-demand execution, and the other is the Azure service plan. So these are the different triggers. Functions provide templates to get you started with the key scenarios, including the following: HTTP trigger, timer trigger, queue trigger, GitHub webhook trigger, blog trigger, event hub trigger, generic webhook, service bus trigger, service bus topic trigger. So there are various ways a trigger can be initiated, and trigger in response will execute the function. How much does the function cost? Consumption plan, app service plan. Consumption plan is only on execution you are charged for the time it is executed. You don't have to do resource management. You only pay for the time your code runs. Very economical. Now comparing functions and web jobs. We can discuss Azure functions and Azure app service web jobs together because they both have the same concept, that is code first integration. In both the cases we write code, and both are basically useful for developers only. So earlier we had only choice of web jobs. Now they have introduced functions. So they enable you to run script or piece of code in response to various events. Both are event based, such as new storage blobs, webhooks, webhook requests. These are all common. In both the cases, these triggers are there. Here are the similarities. Both are built on Azure App Service and enjoy features such as source control, authentication, and monitoring. These are app service features. Both of them have it. Both are developer focused. Both support standard scripting and programming languages. There also we can program in C Sharp, Java, Python, PHP. Here also both have NuGet and npm support. Now, what is that extra functions is providing? So function is a natural evolution of web jobs. In that it takes the best things from web jobs and improves upon them. That is the advantage. Whatever is a good aspect of web jobs, all that have been taken, majorly triggers, everything has been taken, and there is a further improvement on it. Now, what is that improvement? The improvement includes streamlined development, test, and run of code directly in the browser itself. In the browser itself, everything can be done. We don't have to go to something like Studio also. That is one additional improvement. Built-in integration with more Azure services and third-party services. Extra triggers kind of feature. We here pay per use, not pay per service plan. Whereas Azure Web Jobs, they work on the basis of service plan. They're automatically scaled. We don't have to do anything for scaling. For existing customers of app service, running an app service plan still possible. So if you are already having an app service, you don't even want to pay extra for that extra time execution. You can simply use your existing app service plan. And of course, it has integration with Logic Apps, which is not part of Web Jobs feature. So let us see now how these functions can be created with various triggers. One by one, some of the triggers I am going to cover here. So go to portal, more services, functions app. Very simple feature, very handy. My DSS functions, not there, sorry. Why they are not listing? Maybe first I have to add. Generally they provide the option there itself. Compute functions app. So my DSS functions.azurewebsites.net. I'll keep it as computation plan. Alternatively, I can use app service plan. I'll leave it as consumption plan. As the service is getting consumed, it will be. So create a new storage. Yeah, one storage account has to be created because it is in the storage account only the functions are going to be stored, because there is no otherwise code or server. Everything is serverless here. So all that will get stored in the storage account, which is automatically created for us, and we say create. Yeah, done. So now go to Azure Functions. Functions app. And we have here my DSS functions. Expand this. And under this we have to add a function now. So we have a choice of webhook, timer or data processing. You can choose from here the type of trigger, or we have got the language option also. So what we are trying to do now is create a HTTP triggered function. So for HTTP triggered function, I take a webhook plus API in C#. Create this function. I choose this and create this function. So we have the code. So this is the code which has to execute now. Now you can always edit this code as per your convenience. It's basic C# coding here. So here we are getting a request object, HTTP request object. From the HTTP request object, query name parameter values. We are searching for a parameter by name, and that name we are trying to print here. Any response console. Now we are not printing, rather the code which is here generated is for that name. We are getting the value which is the body, and we are adding the same thing to the response again. Whatever name we are getting here, that same name we are adding to the response. So we are trying to take the name either from query string or from the request body. Either from query string we are trying to take the parameter name, or we are trying to take it from the request body. And whatever name we got, that we are putting it in the response. Hello response name. So this is a function now. Now how can we invoke this function? For invoking this function, we can get a function URL. Copy. Now somebody wants to invoke that function, you can just go here, paste, and you have to pass the name. Question mark name is equal to, let's say, Sandeep. Unauthorized. Why is it giving me sorry, not question mark. Question mark is already here, so I should give here ampersand. Yeah, because question mark is already there. So you can just provide this and you got the value. So you can also invoke. Just replace the name of mine with your name, and you can also invoke. Anybody who has that URL will now be able to invoke that function. And we can use this value as an action attribute of a form also. See, I go to portal, I say run, or we can do a test here. See, this is request body which is being sent now with HTTP post. So action attribute of a form tag can be used with the name as one of the input element and submit. That also will work and get you the output. So a form tag can be used to which you can directly submit the data, and that data gets consumed here. The way this is for one parameter, but same thing you'll have to do for multiple parameters. I hope it's very clear how a HTTP trigger function could be used here. So we are able to trigger this function through a HTTP request. It can be GET request when the data is passed as query string, or it can be HTTP post request when the data is passed as the message body in this kind of format. Request body. What I have done is created a new function. Function app I created, and going to the function app, I added a new function. Of course, in handout it says JavaScript. I have used C# code. It's your choice. And I have also tested it by appending the name. So like this, we can have a timer trigger function. So for timer trigger function, click on again new. So many templates will come here. So you can choose one of the templates as per your requirement. Timer trigger, JavaScript, timer trigger, C#. A C# function that will be run on a specified schedule. You can give a name, and this is important. You have to specify a schedule. That is cron expression. Second, minute, hour, day, month, day of the week has to be specified. So right now, seconds is given 0, minutes is given 5, then star, hour, day, minute, month, day of the week is nothing. So this is basically specifying as every 5 minutes. That's the indication here. So I'll change this 5 to, let's say, 1 minute. Click on create. Save it, and you'll see that it's automatically going to execute every 1 minute and display the time here. Wait for 1 minute and you'll have one more entry created. I just clear the log. After 1 minute, again it will come back here. So any piece of code which you want to execute on a regular interval of time, that piece of code you write here. That's what is timer trigger. You have to wait for a minute, complete minute, for seeing that message. So basically you should have understood now, it is the type of trigger which actually defines how is the function getting executed. It is the type of the trigger which is deciding that. Got it? After 1 minute, again one more time it will execute, and it will keep on executing after every minute. Now let's take something interesting, a webhook trigger. So we can use Let's use GitHub webhook. GitHub webhook. Now, what is this GitHub webhook? This trigger will execute based on some action which might occur in GitHub account of yours. So I log on to GitHub. I sign in. So I now create a new repository once I log in. Now, once the new repository is created, go to settings. Here we'll have webhook. You should add a new webhook. Yeah. Now once you have added a webhook, now you have to give the payload URL. Now this payload URL is supposed to be the URL of the function from here. Get secret, get function URL. Copy. That's what we should give it as, the payload URL. Okay. Then we should give the secret, which is again supposed to be from here, GitHub secret. So by doing this, actually we are linking GitHub and the Azure function. By having these two, the URL and the secret, Azure function now has access to this account. Add a webhook. Content type, let us change it to JSON. Which event would you like to trigger this webhook? Now we don't want this webhook to be triggered with every action. So let us say select individual events. In that we can have something which is easy. Let us say issue comment. So when I create a comment in my application here in the repository, that trigger is going to get raised. update webhook. Right? Now come back here. Save the function. Clear. Now go back to the webhook. Maybe issues. Create an issue. A new issue. I am testing. I'm just submitting a new issue right now. But I'll leave a comment. This is a comment for testing. Now this has to get recorded. The moment I call this, internally it has used a webhook which has invoked a function, and that function is executed here. No trace function started. See. From there it should have executed the function here. GitHub correct only. Processed data. We are reading the comment also from GitHub. Why this is not executed? Yeah, it's actually executing. Save it. Come back. One more. And spelling mistake. GitHub. Clear all this. 2. And you see the method is invoked. So we are able to connect a function to a GitHub webhook by following the procedure. So I created a new you have to create a profile if you don't have one. In that profile, you should create a new repository. Navigate to the repository. And in the repository, you have settings, webhook. You can edit the webhook. Provide all these details. This is supposed to be the URL of the function. Our application is generating response in JSON format. So application/JSON. The secret. We have to again get this from the function. and what are the events on which we want to trigger. So I selected issue trigger, issue comment. So we have to create an issue, and when a comment comes on any issue, the event is going to trigger. Likewise, you have so many other options here. You can choose one. Once you save it, see, these are the responses we have got actually. Once you save it, just for testing, go to, because we have used issue comment, go to issue, create a new issue. Creating a new issue will not trigger the function. For that, you have to provide a comment, then only it will trigger it. For all this, it will trigger. And here, to see the value of what is the trigger, here you see data question mark comment is the property which is used. So you have to actually understand the request format, and based on that, take the data and use it.